Hello everyone, welcome back to another video, and today I've got a little tutorial for you guys. So I get a lot of questions on my Instagram, a lot of the same question really, about how I edit my pictures, i.e. the ones I post on Instagram. And mainly people ask me how I edit my pictures of my sketches and pencil drawings, because I normally post like what looks like scans of my drawings, but I actually don't scan any of my drawings. I just take a picture of them and then I edit them on my phone. Yeah, I've decided to do a little video explaining to you guys how I do it. It's super easy, super simple. Yeah, let's get into it. So for example, let's use this image that I have here. It's a very, as you can see, low lit image of a drawing that I did in my sketchbook. It's not a great picture, as you can see, so all you need is take a picture of your artwork, preferably with like a nice camera. So I just use my phone. I've got an iPhone 7, but I used to do this exact same process with my iPhone 5 and it worked fine. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open up this app called Snapseed, and it's a free app. I got it on the AppStore, and this is the only app I use to edit my images, believe it or not. So on Snapseed, I'm just gonna open up my image. So once it opens up, it'll give you like a little pre-made filters, but I never use those. I edit my pictures manually. So if you go over into tools, what I always start off doing is, if it's a drawing or a sketch and I want it to look like a scan, and if I've used just a regular black pencil or graphite pencil, I'll go over into the tune image part and just lower the saturation completely. So basically no color, I just remove all the color from it. If there is any sort of like page ending, or like if I've chopped off a bit of the image or something, I will normally crop it so that any weird, like, you know, this crease in the middle, which is where my sketchbook folds, I'll just crop it so we don't have to edit that. And then my favorite tool of all time is this one, the selective tool. So what this one does is it selects a color on the image and you edit just that color. I hope this makes sense. It basically, once you tap, for example, this specific shade of gray, anything you do to that shade of gray only edits that shade of gray. So what I normally do is I go up to the corners of my image and I up the brightness and lower the structure to get rid of any like creases or dust particles or anything weird. And I will do this exact same thing on each of the corners. So I brighten up the outside first and then I go in. And what this does is it just starts to remove all these grays and shadows. It only lets you do like 6 selective tools at once. So I normally do 4 and then I save it, and then I go back and click the selective tool again and just keep doing that until basically all of the white bits of the drawing are actually white and not gray. So I'll keep doing that over here, just keep brightening up the paper. And as you can see, it's already looking pretty nice, and it kind of already looks like a scan of my drawing. So as you can see, this is the before and after so far. It is pretty much good enough now, but I'm like a perfectionist, so I normally go in with this healing tool and just remove any other like bits of, I don't know, eraser shavings or specks of dust or whatever. Now that that's done, what I like to do is go into the tune image again and go down to shadows and darken up the line art a little bit, you know, just to make it stand out a little bit more. And then I go into details. I normally zoom in just to see how much I'm sharpening it up close, because sometimes you can't really tell far back how sharp it's actually looking. So I zoom in and then I up the structure a little bit and I sharpen up the image a little bit. I up the structure normally like plus 30 and I sharpen like up to 20, never more than 20, because then it gets a bit grainy. After that, I just kind of go in and edit anything else that I can see with the same tools that I showed. I don't really use any other tools. If it's like a picture of my sketchbook and I've got my tools around it and I want to post a picture like that, I will normally go into curves and edit curves of the colors in here. just like you would in Photoshop. I'll show you an example of that in a second. So after all of this is done, because we cropped our image in the beginning, I now have to like crop it back so it's either a square or like a portrait size, because right now it's kind of a weird size, as you can see. So what I normally do is I go to expand and I expand the size of it. And because we lightened up all of the background of our image to white, when I go here, it basically fills in the expanded bits as white, and it's a seamless blend. You don't have to worry about it. And then I'll just go into crop and crop it into a perfect square so that it's ready to post on Instagram. And there she is. If by any chance there is still some sort of like line between the original image and where you've expanded, you can just go in with a healing tool and it'll all go away. This is our image. It's all ready to post pretty much. I just go into export and I go to the JPEG export, so it saves it onto my camera roll as a JPEG, and that's it. This is how I edit my sketches for them to look professional scans, I guess, of my images. And this is also the app that I use to edit them to make prints, because for some reason I just find Photoshop really annoying to edit pictures of my drawings. So I do use this to edit them, the bulk of them, and then I will put them in Photoshop and edit anything else I need to do and make them into, you know, CMYKs, 300 dpi, and all the technical bits I do in Photoshop. And now I want to show a little example of editing a picture of a sketchbook using the image as it is and just tweaking it lightly for Instagram. Okay, so this is a good one because it's a picture of a painting that I did, a watercolor painting, and it's good because it's got a bunch of colors and you can see the peak of editing here. So yeah, I opened up my image on Snapseed, and what I'm going to do first is I'm not going to remove any of the saturation or anything that we did in the previous technique. I'm just going to go straight in with the selective tool. And again, I will go into the darkest areas of the image and just brighten those up so that they match the lighter area of the image. So there's like an even lighting in the image. And this basically just removes like shadows and, for example, I took this picture at night, so the light was coming from my lamp. So there was an area of the image that was quite dark compared to the area of the image that had the light shining on it. And I personally don't really enjoy it when it looks like that. So I want it to be quite evenly lit. So I'll just go in with a selective tool and try to even out all the dark areas. So they kind of look like the top right corner, as you can see. That should kind of do it with a selective tool. Now what I do is I go in with a selective tool again. Are we shocked? And I'll go into I'll just click on the white parts of the paper and lower the saturation of that. What this basically does is when I take a picture of a drawing, the paper comes out as quite yellow because most of the lights that I have at home are like a yellow light rather than like a whiter bright light. So I personally like it when my drawings look true to the color in real life. So I'll lower the saturation of it so it looks like white paper rather than like tinted yellow, which it wasn't. And if I'm feeling like it, I'll just lower the saturation of, I don't know, the table or anything that is bothering me. I'm very picky and a perfectionist when it comes to these things, so of course then I will go in with my healing tool and fix any like very annoying and like distracting parts of the image. So like if there's something like a scratch on the desk or like an eraser shaving, I'll normally go in and just take that out. And then curves. So this is what I was talking about earlier. So I will go into curves, and instead of using the already pre-made filters for the curves, I will go into here where I can manually edit each color with the curves. So I'll normally go in straight with the blue and just take the corner at the top here and just up it up like this. What this does is it basically makes all the highlights kind of bluish. So it removes any like yellow undertones or like just any tungsten lighting basically. After that, I will normally go into the green and lower the green at the top a little bit. And this basically makes all the lights a little bit purpley. And I really enjoy that. So far, this is how our picture is looking before and after. And I'm kind of also noticing that at the corners there's a bit of a shadow. So I'll go in and just remove the contrast a little bit so that it isn't very distracting from the main image. So now that we've done all this, it's time to actually bring out the drawing and make it pop a little bit. So after removing the saturation when we were working on the white parts of the paper, it sometimes will reduce the saturation of the colors of the drawing a little bit. So I like to go in with my selective tool and just click on the middle of the drawing and up the saturation of whatever color is lacking. And I'll normally go into a couple of the spots and just up the saturation quite a bit, just to make it really, you know, colorful and really pops when you post it onto your feed. So as you can see, it's looking a lot better now. Again, what I do at the end is I just sharpen it up a little bit. And this just makes it so that if any of this editing removed any of the details of the drawing, we can add those back in. So it looks nice and crispy. So even if you have like kind of a bad camera, this kind of helps you get away with it. Here's a before and after. And it's looking good. I'm gonna export it. And there we go. That's pretty much it, guys. This is like all I do to edit my pictures. I don't use Photoshop or any other app. I just use Snapseed. I highly recommend it. It's free on the App Store. Hopefully this tutorial helped you guys. So these are the 2 images that we've edited today. And there's a bunch of other options and tools on the app that you can use if you want to get a bit creative. I personally just use the ones that I mentioned today. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for today's video. It's pretty simple, and that's how I edit my pictures for Instagram. Also, quick update, my shop is back open. I opened it back up on the 25th of August, and it's back up and running. It's got new enamel pins and new books and prints, and it's all there for you guys. So the link will be down there in the description if you want to go and have a look on my shop. Thank you guys so much for the support so far. I love you very much. I hope this was easy to follow and helpful. And yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye-bye!